I, Robot, You, Jane. Willow learns about the dangers of the internet when she is catfished by a robot.
We open in Italy, 1418. A demon, Malek, is taking souls or something. It was a nice change for an opening, and surprisingly higher budget than I expected.
I agree. I thought Malek looked pretty good.
Unfortunately, the episode has nowhere to go but down.
We see a monk shouting incantations, and Malek turns into a bunch of CGI that imprints itself into a book.
I was happy they were at least speaking Italian.
Yeah, that's more than I would have expected for this show. We cut to Buffy unpacking the book for Giles, and we see that there are a bunch of other kids there at the same time, as well as a bunch of computers. So does Giles just parade his weird mystical books out in public?
He's getting a technology upgrade in the library, and is not very happy about it.
Ms. Callender, I'm sure your computer science class is fascinating. I happen to believe that one can survive in modern society without being a slave to the idiot box.
There is no better way to make your show timeless than by making an episode focused on how modern your technology is.
I do like the dialogue between them.
More digitized information went across phone lines than conversations.
That is a fact that I regard with genuine horror.
Then this one edgelord gets his panties in a bunch and starts reciting dialogue from a 90s hacker movie.
Printed page is obsolete. If you're not jacked in, you're not alive.
We see that Xander is wearing a shirt that says porn star. I thought that was a little questionable.
Miss Callender does get in one clever quip, though.
I'll be back in the Middle Ages.
Did you ever leave?
Okay.
Willow scans the pages of the demon book, and it summons the demon into the computer.
We see Buffy and Willow in the hall, and Buffy is wearing way too short of a skirt. Willow says she met someone named Malcolm, and Buffy asks,
"What's he look like?"
I don't know.
and then we see one of the computer nerds talking to his computer.
Yes, I will, I promise.
I'm going to change my email notification sound to Willow's after we're done here.
You have mail.
Buffy is skeptical about Malcolm and tells Willow that she doesn't know anything about this guy.
And of course, because it's the 90s, whenever a computer does anything, a bunch of electronic computing sounds are heard. Buffy is looked up in the system, but the 3 screens do not have the same information about her. Her birthday is different on... I don't fucking know. Doesn't seem like it would be that hard.
When Malcolm identifies Buffy, he tells the edgelord to watch her.
My note literally says it's not even worth going into how dumb the whole thing is. This episode felt like it was a clumsy, blunt PSA for the potential dangers of the internet that we would show to people who are over the age of 70.
I just want to make sure you're careful, that's all.
Buffy, he could be different than you think.
At one point, this kid is watching The Matrix on a computer screen, and he keeps saying,
I'm jacked in.
while cutting an M into his arm, which never gets explained, but that scene reminded me the most of high school out of everything we've seen in this show so far.
What the hell high school did you go to? I like how that guy was that way before any of the demon stuff.
I didn't think about that, but yeah, that's a good point.
I was trying to stay awake during this episode, so I was noticing small things, and all of Buffy's shirts have a small animal on them.
Okay.
But it's always a different shirt. I'm going to point out that right now, I hate taking notes for this episode, and I'm putting that into my notes.
We find out that Willow has been cutting class to talk to Malcolm. Her complete devotion to this relationship was pretty ridiculous, and every time she opened her mouth in this episode, whatever came out made her look more and more like an idiot.
Malcolm and I really care about each other.
Buffy goes to find computer nerd Dave to find out more info about Malcolm, and again, she is wearing way too short of a skirt. She asks Dave about tracing an email, and he says,
That's a challenge.
Because you see, Willow's got this boyfriend, Malcolm, and to tell you the truth, I
Leave
think...
Willow alone.
and she starts to think that he might be Malcolm.
It's not that hard to fucking trace an IP. Oh, that's tricky. That's challenging.
Well, this was 1997.
Yeah, which means it would be even easier.
Well, if you knew what you were doing. Buffy talks to Giles, who suggests she follow Dave, and she makes a joke.
What, in dark glasses and a trench coat? Please.
And then she actually does it. And it was a very obvious setup for the joke, but it was just dumb enough that I still thought it was funny.
Okay.
And even though Dave is in a car and Buffy is on foot, she still manages to tail him all the way to this mysterious building labeled CRD. She's spotted by a security camera, and Malcolm types out,
Party.
When Buffy goes back to Giles and Xander, she finds out that it's a computer research lab that was supposed to have closed. She says she can tell something is wrong because
My spider sense is tingling.
this is another reference that it doesn't seem Buffy would be familiar with back in 1997.
Miss Calendar comes in to see how Giles is doing with his database, and she mocks him again.
Because I'm guessing you haven't gone anywhere near it.
But Giles doesn't know and doesn't care about computers. They just installed all this crap and left. Why would she expect that he knows how to do anything?
When she comments on them spending a lot of time there, Xander's line was actually funny.
We're literary.
To read makes our speaking English good.
We'll be going now.
Willow does us all a favor and speaks all of her text out loud as she's typing.
I feel like you know me better than anyone.
But when she turned off that monitor, that sound brought back a lot of memories. I might just check out this internet and those E-letters they were talking about.
Giles and Miss Calendar continue their argument about computers versus books, and it's already pretty obvious that she's into Giles, and I enjoyed that both sides of the argument actually made sense.
I simply don't adhere to a knee-jerk assumption that because something is new, it's better.
This isn't a fad, Rupert. We are creating a new society here.
At one point, she opens the Malek book, and Giles is surprised to find out that it's actually blank inside.
I like that she thought the fact that it was blank was weird, but not the fact that there's a giant ancient-looking book with a demon face on the cover sitting in the school library.
Could have been a Doom player's guide.
Throughout the episode, we get little hints that the school files are being changed by Malek.
Nazi Germany was a model of a well-ordered society? I didn't write that.
And it made me wonder what the demon's goal is in having all these changes made.
I checked the computer and there's nothing in this file about being allergic to penicillin.
Dave tells Buffy that Willow said she'd be waiting for her in the girls' locker room. It turns out the Edgelord has set up a trap to electrocute Buffy, but Dave warns her at the last second, and she jumps to safety in kind of a goofy way.
We then cut to Dave doing what I do every day with Siri, that bitch.
I can give you everything. All I want is your love.
No. This isn't right.
He tells Malek he won't do what he wants anymore, and Malek types up a suicide note for him.
I like how Malek changes his voice, too.
I'm sorry. I've been a terrible person. I'm a coward, and I can't go on living like this.
Giles and the rest of the gang figure out, and that's in quotes, that Malek is in the computer.
I like how Giles refers to Miss Calendar as
That dreadful calendar woman.
Buffy tries to delete the file with Malek, and
Stay away from Willow. It is none of your business.
This episode is awesome. Xander says,
Are we overreacting? He's in a computer. What can he do?
and Buffy and Giles proceed to give him a bunch of ideas.
How about mess up all the medical equipment in the world?
Randomized traffic signals.
Access launch codes for our nuclear missiles?
Destroy the world's economy.
isn't he listening all the time through the computer? Couldn't he just do those things as they're saying them?
Yeah, and then Buffy even details what she's going to do next, again, right in front of the computer.
Buffy goes to look for Willow and finds Dave, who apparently hanged himself.
She tells Giles to get help from Miss Calendar to find a way to get Malek out of the internet.
Meanwhile, at her house, Willow experiences the unthinkable and keeps getting emails.
You have mail.
The Edgelord shows up at her house and knocks her out.
Giles is wary of explaining this situation to Miss Calendar, but she reveals she already knows because she is a techno-pagan who uses technology to do the things that Giles does. And then I hanged myself.
I guess it didn't work.
I'm actually talking to you through the internet.
Oh no.
You've got mail.
In the background on the radio, we hear reports of things going wrong everywhere relating to the internet.
Blaming computer error for the apparent financial discrepancy.
Binding ritual.
Washington, D.C., the FBI today reported that all of the serial killer profiles have been mysteriously downloaded from...
But I wish we actually saw the results of some of that. It feels almost like they stuck it in at the last minute to make things feel more important. Willow wakes up in a room with Creepshow lighting,
where she meets a rejected Doom enemy.
It turns out Malek has built himself a robot form.
I had to walk away at this point, just for a couple minutes.
I was wondering how they were going to resolve the Edgelord once everything was over, but Malek just kills him. Buffy and Xander head to the CRD building, and they both clear the fence in their own way. This was another funny Xander moment. I was really surprised. The humor does undercut the threat of Malek, though.
As usual. Meanwhile, Giles and Calendar are working to re-trap Malek in the book through the computer.
They're going to perform a ceremony online, and again, they discuss everything out loud in front of the computer. Malek says he wants to repay Willow for freeing him.
Willow rejects Malek's advances.
And this goofy music plays as he goes to kill her.
I'll miss you.
Buffy breaks in and ineffectively tries to take him down.
Ow! Guy's made of metal!
And Giles and Calendar are still performing this ceremony. They managed to knock him out of the internet, but he's still localized in the robot body.
Willow tries to friend-zone him.
I think it's time we break up, but maybe we can still be friends.
But it turns out he is immune and knocks her aside.
So Buffy uses a trick she saw on Looney Tunes to defeat him.
Take your best shot.
That's all, folks.
We close with Giles talking to Calendar about why books are still better for him.
And I thought he went a bit overboard this time.
Honestly, what is it about them that bothers you so much?
The smell.
Computers don't smell, Rupert.
I know. Smell is the most powerful trigger to the memory there is. If it's to last, then the getting of knowledge should be tangible. It should be smelly.
He returns an earring to Miss Calendar, and then she tells him the earring isn't exactly an earring.
That's not where I dangle it.
First of all, gross. Second of all, how did it end up in the library? And thirdly, the fact that it did makes it even more gross.
And for some reason, Buffy is still wearing her disguise sunglasses. They look stupid. She looks stupid.
Okay. Then we get the first instance of what I think of as a Buffy ending, where things seem happy at first, but there's kind of an undercurrent that goes in the opposite direction.
Yeah, it's life on the Hellmouth.
Let's face it, none of us are ever going to have a happy, normal relationship.
We're doomed.
Yeah.
That'll happen a lot more later, and they're very satisfying. I, Robot, You, Jane. Overall, I thought about talking about the title, but...
The title is stupid, I'll say. Taking technology, modern for the time, and centering your plot around that is usually not a good idea. And combining that with the not great writing we've experienced so far is pretty much a recipe for disaster. The silliness of it wasn't really enough to displace how stupid the whole thing was. Willow is an idiot, which is very much out of character for her. And for her to throw away everything the show has attempted to build so far for something so dumb was disappointing. Each character was kind of doing their own thing, and you would expect it to somehow tie in together at the end, but it didn't really do it that well. And the resolution doesn't answer a lot of the questions this episode brought up, but that's not a problem specific to this episode. And I imagine the end, there's still a giant Terminator Doom robot in that factory. They just left. It was a hard slog going through this one. I did like the opening in Italy. I did like the ending, and there were one or two kind of good humor moments. It's tough giving out so many low grades this early. Hopefully it'll improve. I gave it a D-.
Okay. This is widely regarded as the worst episode of the entire show, but I didn't think it was nearly as bad as the one with the praying mantis, or the one with the hyenas, or the one with Owen. I gave it a C-. The idea of summoning up a demon by scanning instead of reading aloud was creative, but everything about how the episode played out was dumb, especially Willow being a complete fucking idiot. It also felt very drawn out, especially since the entire purpose of the very first scene of the episode is to show us what we're dealing with, but the characters don't find out until way later. The threat was surprisingly epic in scale, but that epicness was kept in the background, and the jokiness of everything made it feel less important than it should have.
As usual.
But I did think the jokes themselves were better than usual. I wish they had addressed the fact that 2 students died, or what happened to all those people in the factory. The two reasons I still went so high in my grade are Giles and Miss Calendar. I thought Miss Calendar was a welcome addition to the cast, even though her reveal was kind of stupid. It's surprising but good to see them shake things up this early, especially given that I haven't enjoyed much of what has come before. Here's hoping things pick up from here.